that will lift the hardware here at the All-State Sugar Bowl, 48-20. Ole Miss with a dominant performance over Oklahoma State.
It's a great time to be an Ole Miss Rebel. The athletics department is going through unprecedented success. Enrollment is up, construction can barely keep up. One of the biggest reasons, the recent success of the Ole Miss football team. Since taking over in 2012, Rebel head coach Hugh Freeze has returned the program to national prominence. Freeze has consistently brought in recruiting classes ranked top 10 in the country. Some of the best high school athletes in the nation, many of them African American, are now choosing Ole Miss over schools like Alabama and LSU. Yes, it's a great time to be an Ole Miss Rebel, but not for everyone. One figure who hasn't been around to enjoy the success is former Ole Miss mascot Colonel Reb. Someone the university would very much like to see go away, even as a large segment of the community seeks to keep its name alive.
Was the Flood, and they were the red and blue prior to that. The Flood never did catch on. This is the time when Tulane was the Green Wave and Alabama was the Crimson Tide. The Flood really never caught on anyway, but it didn't help when there was a terrible flood in the Mississippi Delta in that 1930s time period that killed a lot of people, and it was kind of obvious they needed to have a new nickname, and that's how they ended up having a contest, and Rebels was chosen.
Colonel Reb made his first appearance in the 1937 yearbook. That same yearbook contains pictures of the Klan as well as representation of slaves. Many believe Colonel Reb was based on a popular local character, Blind Jim Ivy.
Blind Jim Ivy was a very popular fellow on campus in the 1940s and 50s. He was the Dean of Freshmen, that was his nickname. He was a blind man who had come from Alabama to Oxford somewhere around the turn of the century, 1900 or so. Ended up working on campus, but he also would sell peanuts and things like that at football games back in that World War II time frame. He was very much a beloved symbol of Ole Miss, and he looked a lot like Colonel Reb, which is why a lot of people make a connection that Blind Jim was the inspiration for Colonel Reb. I can't prove or disprove that. I don't think it's true.
Colonel Reb remained a fixture on campus even during the turbulent civil rights era of the 60s and 70s. The same year that Ole Miss won a national championship in 1962, the admission of James Meredith sparked campus riots that killed 2 people. In 1972, Ben Williams became the first black player at the university and was later elected Colonel Reb, an annual vote to recognize the most popular male student on campus.
There was a lot of students there, you know, they got behind me real good, you know. It was a lot of fun becoming Mr. Ole Miss, you know. It was a pretty exciting time, you know. Colonel Reb don't offend me. It doesn't, you know, otherwise I wouldn't have went to Ole Miss, you know. I had a lot of people ask me that stuff, you know.
Change was coming, and 2 former Rebel football stars played an important part.
Billy Brewer battled through a tough year to take his team to the Independence Bowl, and a job well done by the head coach of Ole Miss.
There was Colonel Reb, but it wasn't very big. You didn't have the kids then that associated with Colonel Rebel then. They just, you know, you didn't have the Grove. You didn't have anything that they could associate themselves. And being a mascot throughout the Southeastern Conference was not an issue anywhere. So, you know, as time went on and you got into the 90s, is when this thing started coming to a head of, well, Dixie, the flag, Colonel Rebel, is probably an issue.
The Board of Trustees with Mississippi Institutions of Higher Learning has just voted unanimously to select Dr. Robert Kayat.
Robert Kayat returned to the university as chancellor in 1995 and began to make changes. He worked to remove the Confederate flags from games, and in 2003 removed Colonel Reb as the on-field mascot for Ole Miss athletics.
The creation of those things, those caricatures, took place at a time when African Americans were not allowed to participate in the decision-making process. And so in many ways they represent an era and a time period in which African Americans had virtually no power, no say-so, really no right to even be on this campus outside of a maid or butler.
I guess at that point of time, this current student body, you know, in the past did not think anything offensive of Colonel Reb, unless they were maybe of, you know, of a minority of some sort. So students now, you know, coming in and having someone tell you, you know, that's offensive to me, they think back and say, well, you know, my mom and my dad never told me that was offensive to anyone. We love Colonel Reb. And I think that's the hard transition.
Different individuals take it in a different vein. Most of these youngsters probably doing this at this particular time are not Mississippians. They're not true Ole Miss people. They're people who have migrated in here, and you know, things have gotten pushed up.
But Colonel Reb would not go away quietly. In 2003, a student vote to pick a new mascot overwhelmingly supported keeping Colonel Reb. 94% of students voted to keep the Colonel.
You would have thought that the Ole Miss administration would have had the sense to say, you know, we'll hear the students' wishes. They sure wanted to hear the students' wishes in 2010 when the student-led initiative came out for a new mascot then. But at that time, in what was the largest student body vote to date in the university's history, 94% voted for Colonel Reb, and they totally ignored it.
Two early attempts to find a new mascot, Rebel Bruiser and Rowdy Rebel, were laughed at and ridiculed. The university continued to push forward to find a new mascot. In 2010, Chancellor Dan Jones and the university created a student committee to find a new mascot.
Hello, I'm Margaret Ann Morgan.
And I'm Ty New, and we're the co-chairs of the Rebel Mascot Selection Committee.
I remember when the announcement was made that they were going to come up with another mascot, and I was a bit surprised by that, because it's one thing to say, okay, we're not going to use Colonel Rebel anymore, but then to say, well, we're going to give you another mascot, and you're going to love it just as much as you did Colonel Rebel. That's just not feasible.
The final mascot choices were Hottie and Toddy, Black Bear, and one option that was quickly becoming popular with students. Tony Fine was a war veteran and an Ole Miss linebacker in 2008. In a November road game against LSU in Death Valley, Fine's tackle created the Land Shark.
So it was in fall camp before the season, and the way they described it was really hot, August day. They're doing the two-a-days back then. They were exhausted, getting a little delirious and bored probably. And Tony made a few plays. He actually sacked Jevin Sneed and practiced a few times. I think the third time that day that he rang up Jevin, he jumped up and he threw it up. And his teammates and Coach Nix were like, "What the heck are you doing? What is that?" He goes, "I'm a land shark, Coach. I'm a land shark." He didn't tell me this, but my guess is he probably got that from, he did 2 tours in Iraq.
Fine has since passed away, but his creation has lived on to this day.
And they're throwing the fins up here at Bob Hemingway, and coming out of there with the fins up is C.J. Johnson.
The football team's fortunes declined in 2010, the same time as the vote on the new mascot. The frontrunner became the Black Bear. In a vote with over 13,000 students, faculty, alumni, and season ticket holders, the Black Bear was named the new Ole Miss mascot, but it was not a popular selection. More people expressed dislike for the Black Bear than liked it. In reality, it was the least objectionable choice.
I think that what is taking place is that the athletic department and the administration is taking a kind of gradual, not necessarily forcing this mascot on people in a very, very, very aggressive way. They want children to try to connect with the mascot, and then eventually as they become adults, that they will feel a lot more comfortable embracing that mascot.
We're saying, oh, this Black Bear is going to take off, it's going to be flying off the shelves. You can't find hardly anything, if anything, with the Black Bear logo on it. It has been an absolute joke.
Hi! Oh, thank you. What a bear.
Ole Miss student Jordan Richardson spent 3 years as the Black Bear mascot. He loved being the mascot and wearing the uniform, but could never win over the student body.
I was in costume standing on the bleachers, and I was facing a group of young girls waving at them, and there was a guy sitting next to me but facing the opposite direction, facing the field. So my back is to the field, and I'm waving at the little girls that are sitting behind him, and out of nowhere I hear, "Colonel Reb is my mascot," and he shoved me, shoved Rebel, I speak in third person sometimes, and Rebel just went down a flight of stairs.
One specific instance I remember, France Beard was Miss University, getting ready for the Miss Mississippi pageant, and she went down to Blair Batson and was visiting with some of the patients there. And I remember there was a picture that we posted on Instagram of her holding a 8-month-old baby who was being treated there at Blair Batson. A very touching picture of her, holding that baby and comforting that baby. Rebel Bear was in the photo. All the comments, a majority of the comments, I won't say all, a total of them, but a majority of the comments on there was about the mascot, was about Rebel Bear, and not about France and that child that she was holding. So we had to learn that people were going to lash out at us if we used Rebel Bear in any form of social media, and we just couldn't do it.
In 2014, student Sam Folk started an online petition to replace the black bear with the land shark. In less than 24 hours, more than 3,000 students signed on. But when the athletic department learned of the petition, it contacted Folks and asked him to take it down.
After about 12, 14 hours, I received a call from the university just asking really to take it down. It wasn't, it was right in the middle of football season, early football season. It was possibly a historic season. It ended up not being so, but the potential of creating a diversion for the players or for the university off the football team really created a conflict, and I didn't want to get involved in that, and so I decided to take it down out of respect for the university and bring it back up later.
I thought if you allow the students to vote, then whatever the consequences are, either up or down, then that should be until you maybe have another vote from the total student body and to their wishes and see what, I hadn't really understand myself that Ole Miss has, with all the traditions that it has, that you have a black bear. Now, where'd that come from?
The football players really like this idea of this land shark. And, maybe that would have been a better mascot because they seem to have a kind of natural inclination within their culture, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, to connect to this idea of the land shark. So maybe that would have been a mascot that would have been even more acceptable than the black bear.
In 2016, a new poll included the 3 mascot options from 2010, along with Colonel Reb. Students overwhelmingly chose the Colonel, followed by Landshark, Black Bear, and Hottie and Toddy. Apparently, attitudes about Colonel Reb, the Black Bear, and the mascot situation overall have not changed. The Colonel Reb Foundation began after the mascot's removal in 2003 and have worked to bring him back. The foundation distributes stickers, schedules, and t-shirts at every football game and dresses an unofficial Colonel Reb.
What happened in 2004, after it was very apparent, another football season comes and Ole Miss doesn't have a mascot, there's no talk about it. It was apparent that they weren't going to do the right thing, so some alumni got together and said, why don't we just get our own? And it took us a while to figure out how to do that, but ultimately we found out that you could get the same Colonel Reb made by the same company that made it before, and we did. And he debuted at the Auburn game Halloween weekend of 2004, and he's been going to games since then, except whenever out here they won't let him in the stadium, and we've tried to challenge that, and we just don't have the right legal experts or whatever. I'm not sure they're actually justified.
I know there's, ever since Colonel Reb was taken away, there's a lot of political aspects about it, but I just really stick to, if Colonel Reb's going to be around, I'm going to, present it in the best light I can. I can't change people's minds, but I can certainly, make somebody's day, and that's what matters.
Interestingly, a high school in Alabama is going through its own Colonel Reb dispute. Vestavia Hills High School had a mascot that looked almost exactly like Colonel Reb.
Controversy over Confederate symbols has made its way down the flagpole and into school.
In 2015, the school board voted to remove the mascot, and like at Ole Miss, the decision was unpopular. So unpopular that supporters filed a lawsuit to prevent his removal.
There was a big fight, and it's not really over. I honestly have had a child in school in a Vestavia Hills City School since 2000, and I've never seen as much support as the school has had. I have never seen more Rebel t-shirts, Rebel bumper stickers, and really it served to bring us closer together.
It's a testament to everything that we are doing here, and that we stand for, and the relationships that we've built over the course of 18 to 24 months that allowed us to bring home today arguably a top 5 class.
The concern has always been that Colonel Reb and the school's ties to the Confederacy would hurt recruiting, especially among black athletes.
Yes, perception is definitely reality when you're talking about recruits and their families and kind of the different things that can come into play. And so I definitely feel like you have to keep that at the forefront.
I think it's in a gradual way it has helped a lot with the diversity of the entire university, not just the athletic department, but I think it's made it easier for our coaches to open doors. It's given our opponents less ammunition to fire at us, and for our coaches to have to answer when they go into a recruit's home.
Coincidence or not, recruiting has improved dramatically since the removal of Colonel Reb. In fact, Ole Miss has never recruited this well since recruiting services have started ranking classes.
The Miami Dolphins select Laramie Tunsil, tackle, Ole Miss.
In 2016, for the first time ever, Ole Miss had 3 first-round picks in the NFL draft.
What does it say about Ole Miss to have 3 first-round picks in this draft?
That they're recruiting well, and they're on the upcoming and the uprise. They put in a lot of work to try to change the program, and just did everything we can to get to this point. And I think it'll only increase, and it's a lot of talent there now.
I'm white, that's obvious, right? These people are black. We're both people.
That flag does not mean it doesn't mean
Given the recent incidents regarding the removal of the Mississippi flag from the Ole Miss campus, the chances of Colonel Reb returning are almost non-existent. However, with the unpopularity of the Black Bear, fans are still debating about what best represents Ole Miss.
You know, Colonel Reb, I like Colonel. That was our mascot.
I don't feel like it's my job to try to convince anybody of anything. It's their opinion, and I respect it. But I certainly believe in my heart that what the university did was the correct thing. I hope moving forward that we don't do anything else. I don't think there's anything wrong with Ole Miss. I don't think there's anything wrong with the nickname Rebels. But I can understand the problems with the Confederate flag and Colonel Rebel.
The Black Bear does not encompass anything that Ole Miss student body or alumni stand for, and it was really a plug just to throw in a mascot right after the dismissal of Colonel Reb. The Land Shark since 2010 has really taken off, and when that vote was taking place kind of under wraps, kind of behind the scenes, that the Land Shark wasn't at its peak, but I think now it's the perfect time, and I think it'll only get bigger.
I would love to see a costume Colonel Reb run around the field. It'd be great, okay? But right now, I would settle for no Black Bear, and from a pro-Colonel Reb standpoint, I want to see Colonel Reb on merchandise.
Change it to a Land Shark, I think that would be a great move for any student. I think that any student would enjoy that transition, because we've, embraced the Land Shark during football season so much. I don't think anyone would definitely have a problem with it.
And I see little kids and I see students in the stands wearing these Land Shark deals. So if they pick up that as a symbol of spirit, and they do this stuff, they got a motion they can do on television, and they pick that up, and the broadcasters pick it up. So that relates to Ole Miss and maybe recruiting where they see that, they probably like that. So that's probably a good expression.